Welcome, I'm Libhart and you're watching Vision Plus. Of course, I may be in a lot of trouble because I had a couple of shows planned and I didn't show up for one of them and another thing happened for another one. But we go on with life anyway, don't we? Today, we're going to talk about the 3 secrets of the vision and dream makers. Now, without a vision, the people perish. That's the name of the program, Vision Plus. And I thought perhaps you just like a spring is sprung, and maybe a really terrific way to start out the television program today. Now, what are those 3 secrets? Well, I'll tell you what they are. It's GFI. If you have GFI, you will know the secrets. What's the first secret? The first secret is, number 1, we're made in God's image. And we're going to find out how that's true. And number 2, the F stands for, we need to have a little fun in our life. We need to, I think that one of the things that it talks about so many times is that a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. And there are times that we have to appropriate a merry heart, to have fun in life. Now, how do we do that? We're going to find that out also. And the third secret is the I. Now, what does the I stand for? I stands for interest. Oh, you think that, how do we have interest? We have interest in, we'll find that out too, other people and ourselves. It says that, that we must love others as we love ourselves. So that says in reverse that first of all we must love ourselves, doesn't it? So how do we do that? And if you can't remember GFI, the 3 secrets of the dream makers, of the vision and dream makers, then the way to remember GFI is go for it. Go for it. A lot of the times we have an idea. The good Lord just puts out ideas out into the atmosphere, and the people who go for it are the ones that have the new inventions. They're the people that come up with ideas that work. And I think it's because that people have confidence in themselves, in the God, their creator. Remember I said that we're created in God's image. And when we do that, that's terrific. Now, everything we try is not going to work. All the entrepreneurial activities in life are not going to work as well as we'd like for them to. I know it when I was working in commercial television, companies would send me products, hoping I'd show them on the air, give them a free plug, and I didn't care too much about purple cereal and some of the things they came out with. But one day, a company sent me a cosmetic line, and I thought, aha! I'll try this, and I'm smearing this gook all over my face. My little one's watching. What are you doing that for, Mother? I said, that is going to make me beautiful. He didn't take his eyes off. Just watch me for the next 30 minutes. And then I wiped it off, and he said, it didn't work, did it, Mother? Sometimes the things we try in life just don't work as well as we'd like for them to. But because we're created in God's image, that if you ever notice the Israelites, every time something happened to them, they went, as we would say, we went to the altar and prayed and said, oh, I'm sorry I did that. And they started all over again, and the slate was wiped clean, and they had a new start. I always like the way the Jewish people have it, that every 7 years they wipe the financial slate clean and they get to start over again. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we had that today? But I think we'd probably learn a way to abuse it. And I'm sure that that would happen to some of us anyway, and we'd just put all we could on our credit cards and have them thousands and thousands of dollars, and then we'd think, oh well, 7 years going to have it wiped off anyway. Well, maybe that's where the 7 years came, that after a bankruptcy has to wait 7 to 10 years, according to the state you're living in. But in our family, we just had plastic surgery. Just cut up all of our credit cards. Well, we kept one little gold American Express in case we have to perhaps rent a car or something, but not to use it as a day-to-day or on the normal basis. And also, we keep a Texaco card just in case take a long journey. But when we have an idea that we want to go for something, then I think that, like David the psalmist says, when he said that he encouraged himself, sometimes we have to encourage ourselves, because other people are not going to pat you on the back even if you do a good job. Many times you have to just put your own hand up and reach back there and pat yourself on the back. Now it also says that we aren't to brag on ourselves. So let another person brag on you, but you don't brag on yourself. But in the secret of your own closet, you can say, hey, I done good. And you feel good about some of the things that you do. And there is going to be a time when you're not going to say the right thing. Even though you're creating God's image, we have the mind of Christ, there are times when you just won't say the right things. I know at the TV station one day, a guy, it's something like Chuck here at Victory Network, he dashed out of the control room over to my news desk when I was doing a live news show, and he handed me a slip of paper, and I said, there's a news bulletin just handed me, and I looked down at the paper and read, there is something green on your teeth. Sometimes the words that we say, whether it's on television or communicating with each other, we wish we could take those words back again. And even being with the mind of Christ, we cannot take the words back. Aren't there a lot of times you wish you could take the words back? But those words, once they're spoken, even with the person that has the mind of Christ, and even being created in God's image, we cannot take the words back. Communication is one of the most difficult things there is, I think, that we have as human beings. I know that even words that we say that we think we're getting the message across, and the other person isn't understanding. One time our little puppy got into some poison, and so I was explaining to our little one that we had to take the puppy to the veterinarian to get his stomach pumped so that the doctor could take care of it. And I said, now, veterinarian is an animal doctor. So, oh, she was really quiet. All the time the doctor was working on our puppy. And then on the way home, she finally broke the silence by saying, that animal doctor looked just like a man. Sometimes the words we say are not being heard by the other person in the way we'd like for them to. But we keep on explaining things, don't we? If we could take the words out of our mouth and put them inside of that other person's head the way we meant them to be understood, wouldn't that be terrific? Anytime around a holiday season or whatever season it is, that I think that their nerves are more on end than any other time, because we want to be, well, we have that need to be needed, loved, desired, to accomplish something. We want to make a good impression. We use dial soap and all the different other things that they advertise on television and in the newspaper and every other way, magazines, hoping that other people will like us. We got to have mouth spray in our purse or in our pocket somewhere, and we use all kinds of certs and mints, because when we breathe on someone, we don't want them to melt, because we want them to not realize we had a hamburger with onions in it for lunch. And so we want other people to like us. But you know how that can happen more than any other way? You're going to learn that toward the end of the program too. And that's part of the I, the interest. Now, as far as the F is concerned, having fun, well, I think that is a time when we need to just take ourselves not so serious, when we just need to have a little fun out of what we do with our time. I know one day I was trying to teach my grandson how to tie his shoes. Well, first of all, he said he can do it all by himself, and he put on his shoes. I said, hey, David, you have your shoes on the wrong feet. He looked at me in the strangest way, and he said, these are the only feet I have. Sometimes the words that are said are not communicated to the other person. But if we can just have a little giggle time out of all of it and have a little fun and know that, hey, let's go on with our day-to-day exercise. You know, life is not someday, honey. It's today. It's how we spend this moment. It's how we spend this hour. Because an hour is only made up of 60 moments. And a day is made out of 24 hours. And a week is made out of 7 days. And a year is made out of 365 days, except leap year when we have a bonus day to be nice to everybody. We can wake up in the morning and say, instead of saying, good God, it's morning, we can wake up and say, Good morning, God. This is the day the Lord hath made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. And you know, I think when our mind is fresh, we have great ideas. You read the obituaries in the paper and you think, oh, I know that person. Or you hear about someone that's in the hospital, or the family's had a death in the family, and we think, I'm going to send a note, or go see them, or send flowers, or take a cake over, whatever. Well, there's a little saying that this Chinese minister that we had in Lancaster, Pennsylvania taught us. It's a lovely thought was in my heart. I failed to set it free. From lack of exercise, it died and made its tomb in me. And we have these thoughts to send the card, or send the flowers, or go see someone, or go to the viewing, go to the visitation, or go to the funeral. Whatever it is we're going to do for another person. Or we have a neighbor that moves in. We think we should take over a meal, or cut some jonquils, or whatever. Well, you can learn that. So let's say it together. A lovely thought was in my heart. I failed to set it free. From lack of exercise, it died and made its tomb in me. And we need to realize that when we do things for other people, it brings such joy to them, and truly they will have a merry heart. If we stop just long enough to really enjoy each day, to truly smell the flowers, when the pansies are abloom and the roses are abloom, we can take a moment out of our life to maybe pluck off a few of those pansies, put them in a little, it doesn't have to be a fancy bowl, you can put them in a wash out of something that ice cream has come in, or butter, it doesn't make any, some kind of little container, and take it over to them, because they're not going to look at that container, they're going to look at the effort that you made. Because you know what the most wonderful lift we can give to someone else, lift is loving and finding time. L-I-F-T, loving and finding time. That's doing something for someone else. And the I stands for the interest that we have in other people. Now, you've heard of the old 80-20, where we say that 20% of the people do 80% of the work. That's whether you're in a home, or in an organization, or you're in a workforce, or a club, or organization, or group. 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Well, what about in our own relationships? I call it the 90-10 plan. And that's where we take 90% of our thoughts to think about the other person, and only 10% of our thoughts to think about ourselves. I know when we were, Tony and I and Anthony had a wonderful opportunity to go over to Sweden. We had some missionaries that came here, and they invited us over to Sweden to speak. And I learned a lot of things in that experience. One of them was that if you have something to say, cut it in half, because by the time they interpret what they're going to say, you're going to say, and that interpreter repeats it, then you only have to have half as much as you think you want to say, and they'll understand it. And that's a really difficult thing to do, is cut all of your speeches, or whatever you're going to say, in half, because it takes a lot more time to figure out half of what you're going to say than it does to just say everything. I know when we planned the trip, we had to take very few clothes, and it takes a lot longer to plan fewer clothes than it does just, oh, well, I'm going on a trip, throw in a couple extra things, because, well, you know, I'm not sure what I want to wear, so I'll put in all three items I own, and then choose when I get there. That's what we do on a shorter trip. On a longer trip, Tony said, you can take anything you want to, you can buy anything you want to, as long as you carry your own bag and use your own money. Well, while I was there doing that, I could feel something happening standing up in front of the group. And all at once, you know how you know something's happening? I'd lost a little weight for the trip, and there my little petticoat was going slipping down to the ground. What do you do? Well, the men don't have that to worry about, but they might have other items that could happen if they're saying something. So do you leave it around your feet? Do you act like it isn't there? Or what do you do? So what I did was I used everything I'd learned in Patricia Stevens finishing school, and I lowered myself to the ground, and I picked the slip up and laid it over my arm, and I said, well, I never had that to happen before, but I've always been looking forward to it. And the idea is that no matter what happens, we just have to flow with it. It wasn't as bad as the time I went to speak in Houston, and I got up for 9:30 with Women's Aglow workshop to be there from Waco, Texas, and I was about 7 o'clock. I was in Conroe, Texas, and I stopped to get gasoline, and I got out of the car, and would you believe it, there I was, totally dressed, but I had on my fluffy blue house shoes. Didn't put my other shoes in the car, and I thought, what do I do? So everywhere around the country I like to have friends, and I think, who do I know in Conroe, Texas? And I remember another woman from Women's Aglow, called her up, and I said, Mary Frances, I need some shoes. It's 7:30 in the morning by then. She's she's not quite 6 feet tall, but she's certainly a lot taller than I am. I'm 5'2", 5'4", with high heels on. So we don't have the same size feet, but I found some of her sandals that I could strap those babies on, and I flip-flopped to the front of that room and went on with my workshop that day and just told people, hey, told them what happened. If you can have fun with who you are and the things that happen to you during life, don't worry about being embarrassed. The way to build character, one of the ways to build character is to allow yourself to be embarrassed at least once a day. In fact, figure out something you can do to embarrass yourself. Think, now is this going to embarrass me? If it is, do it. And that way you can learn to work through some of those false sense of pride that we have, that everything must be perfect in life. When I grew up on a cotton farm in Arkansas, no electricity and running water and picking all that cotton out there, I said, man, if I ever get off this cotton patch, I never want to see a cotton sack again. Some of you don't know what that is. My husband, who was from Pennsylvania, thought cotton grew on cottonwood trees. He didn't know it was, you know, this stuff where you bend over and pick cotton. Well, I used to not want to tell that I grew up on a cotton farm in Arkansas. I found out that people will pay to hear that you had a poor life. They're glad that you had to rough it, I think, because most other people did too. There's a few people born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and they got a new problem. I know in Arkansas we had a governor, Governor Rockefeller, and he had a son, Paul Winthrop Rockefeller, and he had a challenge in that he was always in the shadow of his dad, who had all this money, and trying to live up to his dad. So it doesn't matter if you have money, you don't have money. You can have challenges. I'm trying to break myself from using the word problem, call them either challenges, opportunities, or situations in our lifetime. And that can happen when we have we flow with whatever happens. When we have an interest in other people, we're going to learn a lot more. One of the things that I have a challenge with is listening. Now, I hear the words, but Tony says I don't observe. Tony, I've learned, my husband Tony is an engineer, Marine Corps trained, German, couple of generations down, but German by birth. He's, you know, he lines up his socks in his drawer. I mean, he doesn't know the word tossed salad lifestyle like the poor woman he married. I can't believe it. But I paid the $5 to the man, so I guess if he wants to give me my $5 back, we could talk about this. But Tony and I have this unbelievable conflict in our life where that he likes everything in a row and everything straight and organized, and I have a hard time finding my toothbrush in the morning almost. You know, if they hadn't started making those little lids that push down on the top of the toothpaste, I'd never know where the lid was. And it's a challenge when you have relationships that you're going to live with, and I tried to figure out, okay, what could make us have a better relationship? How could I use the 90-10 plan in relationship to my husband and our relationship? And I figured it out. If I have spring cleaning every day, you know what that is? Okay, all the men need to close their ears because I'm going to give the women the secret. Because we're talking about the 3 secrets of our being a dream maker or a vision maker. And dream makers are in a lot of ways. Dream of having that perfect household, dream of having that perfect job, dream of having that perfect relationship, whether with the Lord or with our people in our world. And I figured it out. Okay, girls, this is the way we have a spring cleaning every day. You open up the drawers, the closets, and you throw those things under the bed or in the closet. When you walk in the house, it looks really beautiful. Now, I learned that from my daughter. I had 2 daughters. Of course, most of you know, Emily got killed. She was like her daddy. She's with Jesus in heaven. She's the one, as far as I'm concerned, she's the one that caused glasnost and perestroika, because she got killed right about a month before all of that happened. So she was up in heaven petitioning God to let the Russians free. And she's now singing with the heavenly choir. But she was such a neat person, and I mean physically neat. I'd tell them, both of them, to go clean the room. She'd make everything neat in her room, in the drawers, and her sister would throw everything under the bed. So we sometimes have to have spring cleaning by doing that. But I'm going to end this by telling you about the GFI, Go For It attitude about life. To first of all, you're made in God's image, and secondly, learn to have a little fun with your life. It doesn't matter. 90% of the things we worry about never happen, and then the rest of it doesn't matter anyway. And I have an interest in other people. Now, I know you've been conditioned. I'm going to end it with this. This is called chrysalis. Chrysalis is that stage of change, and that's when a cocoon opens and the butterfly comes out. That's the time when you and I become that person God wanted us to be. And this is the way it's said. She always wanted to say things, but no one understood. She always wanted to explain things, but no one cared. So she drew. Sometimes you would just draw and it wasn't anything, but she wanted to carve it in stone or write it in the sky. She would lie out in the grass, look up in the sky, and it was big and blue and all of everything. It was after that she drew the picture. It was a beautiful picture. She would look at it and think about it. When it was nighttime, she would have it with her, and when she started school, she brought it with her, not to show anyone, but just to have with her like a friend. It was funny about school. She had to sit in a square brown desk, and she thought it should be room, and the room was tight and close. She hated to hold a pencil and a chalk with the teacher watching and watching. Put your feet flat on the floor. Teacher came and said, why don't you wear a uniform like all the other girls? She said, I don't like them. It was after that that they drew. And she drew all yellow, and it was the way God made her feel about morning. Because when she would lie out in the grass and look up in the sky, it was only her and the sky and the things God put inside of her that needed saying. Teacher looked at her drawing and said, why don't you draw dolls and doll houses like all the other girls? She threw the old picture away. She started drawing dolls and doll houses. After that, her mother bought her a uniform. And when she was alone, she would lie out in the grass and look up in the sky, and it was big and blue. But she wasn't anymore. She was square inside and brown, and her hands were stiff. And the things inside her that God had put inside of her didn't need saying anymore. Each of us has been placed here on earth and given life for some grand purpose. Each of us has been given a gift and a talent. It was put in us to bless humanity. That is the ordained purpose behind each of our lives, and your purpose can be accomplished only by you. I have a premonition that soars on silver wings. I know of your accomplishments and other wondrous things. I do not know beneath which sky nor where you'll challenge fate. I only know it will be high. I only know that with God, each of you are great. When you go for it, when you have the GFI, when you realize that you're made in God's image, and when you have fun with who you are and who your family is and the situations that you're having, that you're going through right now as you enter this holiday season, as you enter this spring and summer, and whether it's fall or winter, to be you better than anyone else can be you, because you can be you better than anyone else can be you. To remember to have interest and love for yourself and for your fellow man. To remember the 90-10 plan. To think about the other person 90% of the time and yourself 10% of the time. And then you will have the secrets of your own dream makers, your own vision of who God wanted you to be, because you can be you better than anyone else can be you. And I want you to let me know what your goals are in life, and if there's any way that I can help you, I'll be glad to talk with you. Call us here at 461-8148 or call me at 205-582-0240. That's Bonnie Libhart with a name like that. There's not too many of those in the world. That's Libhart. Some people call me Liphead or Liverheart. Doesn't make any difference. Just call me in time to eat. I'm so happy you joined me today for Vision Plus. And always watch Victory Network. Support them with your time, energy, and talent. And slap yourself on that pocketbook and turn a little bit of that money into them too. I'm glad you joined us here today, and watch all the wonderful programs they have here on Victory Network. Bless your heart for watching. Come into His presence with thanksgiving in your heart and give Him praise, and give Him praise.